live, Liz. We're live again on
Hello,
Facebook.
that's nice. We're live.
It is so nice. Yeah, and the sun is shining. So if you're listening to this now, good on you. And if you're listening to this as a recording, well done for catching the sun this afternoon, if that's what you were doing, which we hope you are. You could be sat in your garden, actually. So we hope you're having a lovely time. Liz, you've been gardening all day, haven't you?
I have done unspeakable things to a red currant bush. I've got a blister. I have planted my dwarf golden French beans. Oh. I've had them in my little greenhouse for a while, and they've gone out today. So what else have I done? I've just put some stuff in, moved stuff around, just been hanging out in the garden. I love it.
Hanging out in the garden, just the best thing to be doing on a day like today, don't you think?
Yes.
Excellent.
Superb.
Oh, excellent. Well,
don't look at my fingernails. Hang on, I'll show you.
Oh my God, yes, I can see you've been working jolly hard.
Yes.
Regardless of whether you're wearing gloves or not. Are you wearing gloves?
I don't wear gloves. Oh no, I just go for it. You know me.
And I also see that you've been doing some social distancing walks and talks of a coaching nature this week as well. You've been busy.
I've done one. I've been doing my online telephone jobbies, which are great, and I've got one tomorrow actually. I was going to have a walk and talk today, but they've called him back to work. So he's gone back to work, and we'll have to do it another time. But yeah, I did a socially distanced walk the other day. So I don't know whether you know the app What 3 Words.
No.
It's called What 3 Words. It's really useful. So instead of a grid reference, it gives you, for every square meter on the earth, there is a What 3 Words. So for example, if I look now at where I am, a 1 moment caller, looking at me What 3 Words, where are they? Oh, it might, What 3 Words? Oh, I can't find it on it. Anyway, it gives you something like potatoes, square, bang. And they're 3 words, okay? And they're absolutely unique to your own little square that you're standing on. So if you send the 3 words for a location that you want to meet somebody, they go onto the app, and that you can even get directions to those 3 words. And so you will meet in the exact precise location that
it sounds incredible.
Really good. It's really clever. The emergency services use it.
So does someone decide what those 3 words are, or do you decide what those 3 words are?
No, so it is preordained. It has been worked out by some kind of computer program, and it's you go onto the app What 3 Words, and you'll find out what they are. And some of the combinations are hilarious. I don't know whether there's a combination, pheasant plucker's son or whatever, but you know what I mean? But it's that type of hilarity quite often that you get. Reeds, tangent, apricot.
And have they got any relevance to? Sorry, I'm fascinated by it, but have they got any relevance to the place, or are they just random 3 words?
Random.
Wow.
Yeah, really good.
Fantastic.
So yes, I sent my coachee my 3 words, and we met so that we didn't have to travel in the same car or anything like that. And of course there was no Marks and Spencer's Cafe, which is where I normally meet them at Ashbourne, because it's free parking. Yeah.
It's a good idea to meet at Marks and Spencer's, isn't it? Especially in Ashbourne, because it's just on the outskirts. As you say, it's free parking. They do a nice cup of coffee, and yeah, there's always a seat, isn't there?
Pretty much, yeah. It's good, and you can go and use the facilities, and then go off for your day, and that's how we work it normally. And that's how I roll. That's my groove.
Well, it's great to hear that you're up and running and that you're socially distancing and that you're doing all of that great stuff and helping through the coaching process for people to gain clarity on what's going on in their lives, which is all, power to the elbow. That's what we're really interested in. And this series of discussions that you and I have been having have been I look forward to my Tuesday. They've been so fantastic. And this was the final episode last night of SAS Who Dares Wins, the celebrity version. And the title of that was Resistance to Interrogation. I have a question, however, Liz, and I don't know what you might think about it. But because you are a resistance to interrogation officer, instructor, trainer, officer, you know it inside out and backwards, and that's why I'm really fascinated to chat with you today. What seemed to be? Oh, sorry, are we?
Ella's here. Hi, Ella.
Oh, Ella, great to have you with us. Let's have a little look. Yay! Good afternoon, Ella. Really nice to have you with us. Ella, chip in with your thoughts and your questions. Even if you haven't watched the episode, it's okay because you'll watch that later, I'm sure. And my thoughts or my question is, isn't it more about instead of the resistance to interrogation, yesterday's emphasis seemed to be, stay alive at all costs. So it was more about who's going to tell the team what they want to hear first, and that's the sensible thing to do. And I was really surprised by that. What are your thoughts on that for a starting point?
Okay. What happens is they're given a cover story so that they've got a reason to explain to anybody, any bystander, what they're up to, should the need arise. However, when you've been taken prisoner and the chips are down and it's like full-on handcuffs, dogs, flipping your ass is mine routine that it is, then obviously after some time, I mean, let's imagine these are serious people with weapons that if they think that you're in the wrong place at the wrong time doing something sinister, if you decide that you're going to, keep that story going and try and blag them when it is evident that it's not what you were doing, they're going to get so disenchanted with you that they are likely to put a bullet in your head because you're going to be a pain in the backside for them. You if you're a prisoner, have to be treated in such a way as to be able to respond to any questions. So you've got to be alive and fed and looked after and hidden. So if you think about it, if people are there insisting for hours on end, no, I was doing such and such, and yet one other member of the team said, actually, we were doing this, because they realized that now is the time for us to sort of say, this is what we were doing. Save themselves, because what we're looking, let's think back to what the program's about. It's about SAS selection. Would these people be the right caliber to serve alongside those guys? Okay, and if you're dead, you're no caliber whatsoever, really, are you? So you've got to be. It's a balancing act. The cover story is there to throw people off the scent, in case there's anybody still out there on the ground that needs protecting, and the guys, and once they're out on the ground, and you've gone, they know you've been taken prisoner, they'll be thinking, I have a certain amount of time to get out of here before I am hunted down and either killed or taken prisoner myself. Okay, so yes, that's what the cover story is for. It is to string an enemy or an interested party along so that your story and what you were doing is not divulged. But there comes a time when it is obvious that the gear that you have, the answers to the questions that you are giving are either inconsistent or completely at odds with one another, because For example, I think it was Lauren last night that realised, now I'm going to make the call. Hi, Agnes. Hi, Agnes.
Hi, Agnes. Good to see you, Agnes.
So yeah, Lauren realised, and this is what struck me about her. She was switched on. She wasn't so physically exhausted and mentally exhausted by that process that she could still think. Now, Joey, bless him, at that stage was not able to think his way out of a paper bag, which is why he struggled. But Lauren was thinking, okay, what do we do? What do we do next? If we carry on trying to blag them with this cover story, and they've already told us that they don't believe us. So if we carry on doing that, the odds are either one by one or all together, we will be disposed of.
Yeah.
That's the kind of scenario we're talking about. Therefore, I'm now going to switch over to what we were really doing, because and string that out for as long as I can, because I've got to make it work for me so that I can survive for long enough. And I think Billy said this, didn't he, on the programme? You know, if you're caught behind enemy lines and you're taken prisoner, the SAS will always come for you.
Yeah.
Said that on the programme, or whoever will always come for you, come find you, come and get you out. So your main objective really is to build a relationship and humanise yourself with your captors so that they don't want to shoot you, and don't antagonise them, and be as compliant as you need to be without looking silly or over ingratiating yourself, because that also will start to annoy them.
It's a very, very fine balance.
Very fine line indeed.
What did you think? Because I was very surprised, and we've got a couple of really good comments here. So we've got Ella saying, reading the mood of the urgency of the interrogators seemed to be the criteria that the trainers needed to feel, and I don't think they all got this. And I kept writing down in my observations, you know, they haven't got it yet. They haven't got the message. But how difficult that must be, even when you've got the message, to make the decision about when. So
sometimes it's the super strong ones like Helen, right?
Yes.
I thought Helen was gonna be there at the finish, and the reason I thought she was because I can see that she is super strong. However, that was an overdone strength, because you know, were you with these people training, you know, doing the SAS training? I was not. She was great. If that's what the answer that she had needed to give, that was brilliant. However, what I suspect by that stage is that other people were telling the interrogators otherwise, and she was not giving her insistence on sticking to that story was overdone, and she would have, instead of saying that would have been the moment that they chopped her. That the talking in the crew room, looking at the monitors, the moment that she said I was not, umpire would have gone, right, that's it, because she's just missed her opportunity, her last opportunity to say, actually, yeah, I do know these people. Because what would happen then is that the interrogation session would probably finish, and they'd say, good, right, okay, I'll speak to you later, and the hood would have gone on.
Do you think she might have been thinking, well, I think they're telling me that, but it's not the truth? You know, how we see people played off in like the detective movies and so on. Do you think she might have had that in her mind, that she was maybe being played?
Quite possibly, because she although obviously it sounds like I'm doing it down when I'm saying that she wasn't exhausted. Obviously she was exhausted, but she had capacity, as did Lauren, to be thinking. Now Lauren was thinking one thing, she's a bright girl, and Helen unfortunately was thinking, no, I can do it, I'm just going to fight down this corner. I've not got to that point of duress yet. but she'd misread. She just misread. I mean, okay, and we only saw a snippet, but I'm guessing that she had up till then been given ample opportunity, and she was still insisting, and that was her last chance that they showed.
Yeah. I mean, just staying with Nikki. Oh no, it was it was Helen, wasn't it, who got the water chucked in her face and got screamed at, and the water chucked in her face. And they were very impressed with her response to that, weren't they, the team? That she held it together really well.
Was really, I was so impressed with Helen Skelton.
Yeah,
she was super. Her one major mistake is that she could smell the end of the exercise, and maybe it had gone into daylight already. I think that they worked into the daylight. Yes, because it was already daylight when they were doing that hosing from above thing. I think she was smelling the end of the exercise and thought, if I can just hang on, I've got this, and that's what I need to do. But she had misread, because when Ollie briefed them at the beginning with the cover story, he said it is absolutely your call when you need to give this up and go with them. Go with the thing, and she made the wrong call.
So difficult. I have no idea. I mean, I can't even imagine getting to that stage. So I've got no idea how I would respond in that stage. But your head would have to work very quickly. I was, however, I know I've said it before, but I was, however, really surprised at how quickly Lauren seemed to tell the truth. I was very surprised by that. Janie Smethurst, nice to have you with us, Janie. She says Nikki tried to tell Joey how she tried to let Joey. No, sorry, I need glasses to read. If it was okay to talk. Yeah, please pass them over. By a subtle facial expression. It's fascinating to see how people react differently under pressure. It really is, isn't it? So, who were you most, I suppose, most surprised by yesterday in terms of how they responded and reacted?
I had hoped that Joey had a little bit more in him than he did, because I think he just got to the stage where he just thought, bugger this for a game of tin soldiers, and that was that. When the lads started to square up to him, and it looked like for a moment that there might have been a bit of a physical standoff, he was just about to chuck his teddy out of the cot, really. And that's when he just thought, no, I'm going to walk. And I have the utmost admiration for that. But it is a shame that he just didn't have a slightly more in the tank for just taking some of that on the chin. Because I imagine that he was so worn out by that stage, he'd forgotten what a game this is. And there are game playing rules, and taking it on the chin here is one of them. But even though he'd intimated earlier, I've got to remember I'm just a piece of bullshit. And I thought that was very, very insightful. Yeah. But he just had enough and walked away. And I mean, good for him. But I was hoping that he had that tiny bit more to give, because I would have enjoyed seeing him get to the end of that.
That would have been so well deserved on his part. In fact, all of them. I think feel for me that was a really, really difficult call, actually. And I think it was probably such a close run thing that I wonder whether the team had to look for something to base that decision on, because they were all so good at the end there. I don't know whether that's a possibility or not.
What will have been happening in conversation is there will also have been weighing up somewhat previous performance. But they do tend to go into it so that the interrogation phase is pretty standalone. But if they need to cull, say, 2, 3 or 4 away, they tend to cull sort of 2 at a time, really. But it's one of those things where normally over the night people will start removing themselves, and you wait for that to happen, because that too is massively informative, and the people that don't want it as much as you thought that they did want it, or as much as they thought that they wanted it, will remove themselves, because it is such an uncomfortable and painful and tortuous experience, just by dint of the fact that you are cold, wet, exhausted, hungry, and very uncomfortable and on edge. If you're not on edge physically, you're on edge mentally. It's just, there's no let up. So that they sort themselves to some extent, but then there will be those like Helen that have to be told no. And what would have been happening around that table, they would have decided that, as brilliant as Helen was, and as brilliant as Nikki was, their behaviour under interrogation towards the end, after all those hours, they still weren't getting the message, we need to be dropping this shit now and going with what's really going on. And because they had failed to appreciate that, that's why they would have been nobbled at that stage. That's cruel, but that's how it is. And do you know what? You never really know at the beginning of an exercise who's going to be left standing at the end, and it's very revealing.
Yeah.
When you think back to other series, there were always people that did brilliantly all the way through. Physically, they were up and at it. That team players, brilliant. But actually, in interrogation, they just have their armband in for whatever reason and think, nah. And so you've got to respect that decision that they make, because they're making two decisions. One is, I'm not prepared to do this any longer. And two is, I'm probably not cut out for this bollocks. And there's either one or the other that might be predominant, but it's a realization. I don't want it as much as I thought I did.
Yes, and I wonder whether I think Nikki and Helen were really shocked. I think Tony was also really shocked, because I think they thought they were doing well up to that point. Joey seemed to be a clash of values. He would do anything. He's a rule player, just as you said, Liz, but he didn't play by the rules then, because were his values stronger than the rules of the game? So he was never going to make someone vulnerable by, being the whistleblower or whatever it might be, by giving them the information. And I just wondered how much you thought values played a part. This is not worth it. I'm not going to sell my mates down the river. I'm going to walk away from this, because even when he was squaring up, that guy was squaring up to him, and I thought, Jesus, I think he's going to clock him one now. And I think we'd have all been very happy if he hadn't done.
He might have done. It might have been edited out.
What do you think? Do you think values plays a part? Do you think he went enough?
I do think if you think about what Joey does. Well, we're not sure, are we, really, what Joey does? But if you think about the fact that the most important thing to him is his following on social media.
Yeah.
If he had been seen or perceived by people to have sold his mates down the river, he may have lost quite a considerable chunk of followers, but I don't know. But I have a feeling that that is the most important thing. That is more important to him, because that's his livelihood than this thing.
Yeah.
Whether he had the mental capacity to win it, I'm not entirely sure, but I wasn't there, so I don't know. But I think he'd got to the stage where he was just perennially confused, And he doesn't,
Yeah.
and that's very uncomfortable for him. He doesn't mind admitting that he's not the sharpest tool in the box academically. That's a given. That's not a problem. But I think he does mind actually perennially feeling like a bit of a chump because he's not sure what's going on, and I think that was wearing him down.
That's a really good point, and maybe you'd reach the point at which it was enough was enough.
Yeah.
And I think that point about, preserving your identity, you have to be true to yourself. And he has built his whole reputation and persona on who he authentically is, or who we perceive him to be. And he seems to be fairly authentically that. So that's a really interesting point about preserving his social media following. I would imagine his social media following will love him even more for what he did.
I would think so, yeah. I was really impressed with him.
Yeah.
Really impressed. And physically, he was a bit of a train, to be honest. He just had anything you put in front of him, just got on with it.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
So he's not just a pretty boy down the gym, he's not a gym queen. He really was fit.
Absolutely. Very, very, very impressive indeed. I am just going to come to Teresa Edwards. Nice to have you with us, Teresa.
Oh, hiya.
She's going to miss SAS and these analysis sessions. Good insight, Liz. Thank you for that. I'm sorry, my eyes are really not working. I'm facing into the sunshine, and it's very grey to read the words. So apologies. I need my reading glasses, really. Thanks for that, Teresa. That's great. If you can give a thumbs up on what we're doing here, and follow and share, and that would be absolutely.
Oh, yeah, give us some love hearts.
So Liz wants love hearts. You wouldn't think, would you, that she is a resistance to interrogation instructor?
Just a big pussycat.
But it's about psychology, Liz, isn't it? Janie says, can I ask, do any of the participants receive any coaching or counselling after they leave, as the interrogations seem to get them to face up to some really tough personal issues?
Yeah, they do. There are two very good, fully bombed up, proper psychiatrists, Vicky and Howard, who are absolutely lovely, and they look after them all the way through. They also make sure that, I think they have some sort of influence on onboarding some of the people as well, or making sure that they're ready for the program. And then they, after everything's finished, they are very carefully, taken care of.
What would that involve? Because there is that final process of interrogation is really challenging, isn't it? So what would that process involve? How long would it be? What would be the kind of outcomes that you would expect? For, let's say, for someone like Tony. Let's talk about Tony for a moment.
I loved Tony's exit, by the way. There was so much love from Ant and from Tony as well, and it was such a sweet exit that he made. And you know what? By the time he's had his cheese sandwich and had a beer and gone to sleep and woken up, he was probably okay. Although sleeping on it, there'll be a couple of things that he might have, needed to just to chat about. But I think with Tony, I think he'll probably work quite a lot out for himself.
Yeah.
This was a massive catalyst for him to reprioritise. It was, it's what he was saying during the programme. It's about time. He said it's what you do with your time, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what priorities mean. And he said, and I haven't given enough time to some of the things that are really important, and I want to go and put that right. To be quite honest, I'm not sure that he's got a lot that he needs to talk through with anybody other than the people that are close to him. I think he's a lot more sorted than he thinks he is.
Yeah.
I know he's got the anger issues and what have you, but you know what? Ant did a lot of good stuff there with that.
Yeah, I agree.
You know that thing where he was poking him and then he sort of hung back and Coke and go back again. And I think that there would have been a lot of that. Because they were waiting for Tony Bellew to explode and mash somebody up. But we weren't necessarily expecting it from Joey. And at one stage last night, it did look like that might actually happen. But it made me laugh. Dilksy made me hoot. And because he got close up and personal, didn't he, with Joey Essex? And then he said, "You're a good-looking lad, aren't you?" And Joey's face was like, did you see Lauren and was it Lauren and Nikki looking at each other? Well going.
Yeah. He was very, very intimidating, wasn't he? I mean, he's very physically intimidating.
Yeah.
I think
he's massive. If me and him go in a room together, it's just bonkers. It's me at 5'4" and he's about a foot taller. Yeah.
I mean, it's really interesting. We always talk about, and I'll pick up Tammy's point in a moment. Nice to have you with us, Tammy. We always talk in coaching about flexibility of behaviour. And one of the things I've asked you in the past is, how do you go from who you are, which is this wonderful, smart, beautiful, soft-spoken, heart-shaped person who likes having hearts in her life, to like screaming in somebody's face. And we saw that with Dilksy, didn't we? We saw his sense of humour. We saw him compose himself, and we saw him let rip as well. And that as an interrogator, how important is it to have those in the right places, but be able to go there?
I think it's vital, actually, to be a good interrogator.
Yeah.
You can be an interrogator, and if you're working on a big team, they can just send somebody else in if they need that effect, and they'll whip you out, and you go in and do. But to be able to turn on a sixpence and draw on your inner fishwife like that, in a flash, it takes a bit of practice, and it's quite hard work. You've got to get a lot of energy behind it in order to be credible. You've got to mean it, so you've got to think of something that that's really gonna carry that emotion on, so that, and then you've got to be able to drop it and go back into into sensible. So you've got to look like some sort of psycho host beast, but actually be very composed and sensitive with inside, and it's quite tricky to do. Dilks is brilliant because he is a little bit like me. When you hear him in conversation, he's got a lovely, soft speaking voice, Leicester accent, and he's just so gentle, and he's a right princess. He loves his shopping. He loves his shopping. He loves his labels. If you go, I went up to Scotland with him, and we flew from East Midlands Airport together. And bloody hell, he was in and out of that duty-free shop like a rat of a drain pipe, getting all the Gucci kits. So actually, when off screen, he's a complete princess. I call him Princess Festa. Because he's a cross between some sort of Princess Tippy Toes and then Uncle Festa when he's got his mac on and his bald head, But he's lovely.
That is really interesting that you say that, because I did think his Mac was very Matrix, and we know what the Matrix is all about, style, isn't it? And I did wonder, but it's really nice to hear he's a good guy.
Oh, he's lovely, but yes, he is a bit of a style princess, definitely.
Yeah, but by goodness me, he can be that forceful. That person that you would be actually physically intimidated by.
Because it's like you're on a knife edge with him. You don't know, with that nice voice, where's it going?
Yeah.
And it's like, in your face, and it's and he'll go, and he's on it, and he's got a big voice and a big presence and a foul mouth, and it's just, it's scary.
What a set of tools to have. Plus, he can throw a cup of water very, very accurately at someone. Janie Smethurst makes a comment about that. I think it's Tammy. Sorry, Tammy, it's yourself. When Helen had the water thrown in her face, she was thinking, I think, as we were thinking, oh my God, and she'd have been hard pressed not to fly at the Interrogator then. But didn't Helen do well? Did she not do well?
Absolutely, she was utterly brilliant, Helen
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
But that when we're talking again about the overdone strength, she just
Yeah.
overdid, and that's why she couldn't stay, because she
And
back to
and again, I
I
just wonder if it's about those values. So I wonder whether Nikki did they get the message, or could they not carry the message out? So it's like, who delivered the message? Was it adequately delivered so that they understood what they were able to do? Were they able to carry it out? Because I think I'd have been really tested. Like I say, I wouldn't have got that far, but if I had have got that far, I think the last thing on earth I would ever have done was dobbed me mates in, because that's not how I'm geared. I spent my whole life not doing things like that. So, that was really, really tough. Now, just let's talk about Nikki for a moment or two. Nikki didn't feature very much, but by goodness me, she looked like as fresh as a daisy. She looked like she had done a walk in the park to me. What a strong woman she is.
Yeah, great, brilliant, and she was the grey girl all the way through, wasn't she? Really didn't make any fuss. There was not a lot of there was no extra fuss or faff. You didn't see her having any arguments or being irritated. She just got on with it. What a trooper! What a trooper!
Yeah. Yep.
What was your question? I've forgotten it.
Well, I didn't ask you one actually. I was just talking about. It was like a kind of a question in a statement.
You wanted to know how they were briefed, and I.
Oh yeah. How are they briefed, and do they get the message? Is there noise in their head that they can't take it on?
Knowing Ollie like I do, and quite well, briefing will be scant, because he will expect you. What Ollie wants is for you to read his mind as to what needs to be delivered, and then go and deliver it without coming back to him with any questions, and go and deliver it slightly better than he was hoping. Then it's fine. That's what Ollie's like, and so when he's trying to give a briefing, he is quite scant with the detail, and he wants you to go and take that message and then go and be brilliant with it. And so we won't go into detail. He hates answering any questions. If you come back to him with any questions, he sort of looks at you as if say, "What, you can't work that out for yourself?" And so yeah, I imagine that because it was Ollie on the job, they wouldn't have been given a great deal more than what you saw on the programme.
Right. Thanks for that, Liz. Thanks. We've got a couple of questions coming in. So Jazz, thank you for loving the series. Thank you for loving the amazing Liz Abram and our Tuesday sessions, which we all love and we will miss after today. So that's really lovely. Liz says a question about why you weren't on the series. So Liz was involved in a private coaching process contract and couldn't make that series. Could you, Liz?
Next time, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. And Teresa is asking, do you know the interrogator who was standing in your shoes whilst you were there?
I haven't met this that lady. I've never met her. I think when she was serving at the unit, I might well have been in Germany with my husband and family as an army wife. So the people that I don't know generally are the ones that were there at the time when I was away abroad. But I haven't met her, no.
And what do you think about maybe she or Dilksy, I don't know, brought in the water hose pipe from above?
I suspect that was the production team.
Right.
It wouldn't have been them.
That's very cruel of them.
Yeah, well, this is what happens on reality telly. Sometimes they have ideas about making it livelier.
Yeah.
but that's not something we would ever do. That's more of a production idea than an R2I idea.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it's just because of course you've got to try and convey, haven't you, using the magical means of telly, how testing it is, and sometimes you need something really visual.
Yeah.
And to be fair, it is very, very testing. But if you just were to watch it as it is, and try and put that onto the television, you might have quite a bored audience, because they'll be thinking nothing's happening, they're just in the room talking. Yeah, that's kind of how it works.
Yeah.
So there is a little bit of theatre there, and that really is more theatre than how it is. But it just to have the effect of the audience understanding how tough these people are having it, and gives them also an opportunity to pick up the little micro expressions that go on and to see what they're made of.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what's occurring there.
I mean, totally. You can't. I can't imagine what that must be like to have been sleep deprived, have had the white noise, which is to be wet through, and then have a hosepipe. I mean, gosh, in a freezing cold environment, I don't even like having a cold shower. I have to say, it has to be red hot for me. So that is a kit, and to stand there and not to run around going, oh my god, what was that?
You know, do you remember we're talking about military bearing? Do you remember? I think we had a conversation about that. That's a test of, have we got you within that sort of mindset now also, isn't it? It's like, are you going to run around and go, oh my god, or what? What are you going to do? And so it's another indicator. It's another key performance indicator that somebody's got on board with the idea of, if I'm to be a soldier and I'm to be selected here, then I've got to take it right on the chin.
Yeah, and they did. By God, they took it in. They took it literally in bucket loads, didn't they? So Janie's saying that she loved watching that flexibility of behaviour with the transitions between soft and hard approaches by the interrogators. And it's amazing how they can change in the flick of a finger. And you've said throughout these discussions that we've had how important it is for them to be able to gauge what's going on. And you've spoken specifically about Ant. And Janie, in a sort of a previous comment, says Ant was brave at poking at Tony. So Ant was pushing him and then pulled him, didn't he? So do you think they were in two minds about whether to push him to his absolute limits, or to the point where he might have broken? Because can you imagine if Dilksey had that little paddy that he had with Helen, and chucked a bucket or a cup of water in Tony's face? And I'm sure that they know not to do that. They're testing people in different ways. But that skill, as you said before, is massive, Liz, isn't it?
Yeah. If I'd have been there, I would have been the one to put the water in Tony's face.
Would you?
Think about why. I am 5'4", and Tony actually wouldn't. It would have taken a lot for him to turn around and deck a woman.
Yeah,
he wouldn't have. It was braver for a lad closer to Tony's size to do that, because it is a bit of a come on. If I'm doing it, it'll annoy him, but he wouldn't have gone at me, but because I've got no alpha ego coming at him.
Right, okay, right.
So yeah, I think if I'd have been there, that I would have been the one going in there chucking things at him. Or my personal favourite is going in with a Styrex cup. It's all you need. You know, one of the little coffee cup, and you fill it full of water, and you just flick it at the face like that. And I hate it. It's just, it's mean and horrible but it gets a real reaction.
Does it?
Not tipping water over the head. I mean, I've done that before. I'm a bit of a one for that sometimes, because I haven't got that many weapons in my armoury, really, have I?
Well, I think you have got a lot of weapons in your armoury, because they're not going to resort to physical violence there, are they? What it is about smartness of thinking, and it's about pushing, isn't it, to where you want to push a person. And I guess this is different because this is about civvies. This is about civvies going through a process, and whether you eliminate them or whether they win a competition or not. Does that make it different, Liz?
Different to what?
Different to interrogating in the real sense of the word, with real prisoners, and really want information.
They are a different breed, but do you know what? These celebrities in particular really, really impressed me this time. They've only had 9 days of trying to be a military operative, if you like.
Yeah.
So they're not sort of dyed-in-the-wool soldiers. Yet their whole approach is very, very impressive.
It was. Do you think that celebrities have to have a certain discipline? Because in order to succeed in that world, you have to have, I would imagine, quite a lot of resilience in order to be able to succeed, to be noticed, to win contracts.
This is what I'm noticing about doing the civilian versus the celebrity series. Actually, the celebrities are tough. Tougher than you might think.
Mentally tough.
Yeah, because to get where they are, they have to be quite resilient. You don't really get there by accident. Not even Joey, bless him. With his followers. You don't really get there by accident.
Yeah.
So in order to get where you are, you've either got to be particularly talented, or more usually quite talented, with a good attitude and not be averse to hard work and just mucking in and getting what needs to be done. There are one or two divas, aren't there? And I think that, for example, I think footballers are slightly different. Having said that, you know, they do have to work really, really hard. But the other thing that struck me is when for example, I was thinking Victoria Pendleton in particular, and Ben Foden from the last series that I was on, when they actually fall out of favour at the top of their sport and suddenly are no longer required, they are dropped like a hot potato. I mean, we're not talking somebody phoning them up and saying that they're not required even. We're just talking about the people that would be normally phoning them up, not. That is it. It's like they're ghosted. It's hideous. And so I think some of particularly the elite sports, it's really tough stuff.
Yeah.
So they are more resilient in some respects, I think, than the civilians that go on. But of course, you've got a raft of different disciplines, haven't you? You've got Brendan, who was on Strictly. You've got Nikki, who's you've got Katie Price, who's Katie Price, and the knocks and the trials and tribulations that she's had. You've got people that are used to living in the public eye, and you've got some celebrities that are not necessarily used to living in the public eye, but they do what they do, and they're different again, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? It's some people are there, you know, the social media, they're used to putting themselves out every day and being scrutinised and looked at and putting out content. But there are some people that aren't used to that. I'm trying to think who wouldn't be used to that now. Look, Tony Bellew, really, I'm thinking. Bellew, whatever his name is. Locksmith. I haven't got a clue
Yeah.
what it was, but he I'm sure is recognisable to his fans, but outside of that circle, you've got probably somebody that's quite an unassuming guy that's not necessarily recognisable, but does his thing brilliantly. And you know, who else was on the thing? Let me think. There's Ansia, bless her, brilliant. I thought she was brilliant.
Yeah.
Who else has gone?
So there's Brendan. Gosh, now we're having to think. If anyone can help us out with who's gone, that would be.
Just think about how different
That
they
would
are.
be.
They're all as different, and just because they're labelled celebrity doesn't mean actually that there's no difference between them, because there's a raft of difference between all of those people I saw. You know, whether they're sports people, dancers, musicians, presenters, they really are very diverse, and it's fascinating to see how they're all, you know, bringing their different skills to the table, really, and to
Agreed.
see how
sorry, to see how what? Sorry,
it developed. Did you hear? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I did. Thank you for that. So a couple of things that I wanted to ask you about was that it is going back to what we were discussing before, but I'm just wondering about Joey. So I just wonder whether Joey is dyslexic. I don't know whether he is or not. I haven't had time to look it up since I had the thoughts, but I just wondered that sometimes memory can play a little part. And I honestly did. I honestly, when they asked, when Dilksey asked who these people were, I honestly wondered whether he'd drawn a blank. You know, sometimes you can be introduced to someone and then you go, oh my God, what was their name? And I know they've been together, but they've been talking to each other in number terms. You know, is it a possibility that one, he forgot what Ollie said, two, you know, that's kind of doing him a disservice. But if you have dyslexic tendencies or you have dyslexia, it can affect that short-term memory process. And I just wondered, you know, in interrogation processes, do you ever take that into account? Because, I mean, I have a terrible memory, which is why I bring it up. So if I was being interrogated, it's very likely I'd go, I can't remember, I'm really sorry, just can't remember. Is that just, I'd just get a bullet to the back of the head? Is that just what would happen?
Yeah, you'd have been shot unless you could make yourself useful, frankly. Now, what was I going to say about the dyslexic thing? In my limited experience with people with severe dyslexia, what they're quite good at doing is carrying around a bit more than usual right here in the front of their brain. And so they give off the air of somebody that is perfectly normal and knows what's going on, but actually where they have difficulties processing it from here to store it here. And I think that could have been what was going on with Joey yesterday. He got too much, his head was on fire. He got too much in the front of his head. He couldn't process it. So he could, and when you've got so much going on in here as well, there's no elbow room for any of it to sort of allow itself to be sorted or make any sense. It's just there as a little limp piece of information on its own. Oh, I've got to remember that. You know, oh, the curtains are black. Right, remember that. Why the curtains are black, you won't be able to sort of fit that in there as well, but you just remember that the curtains are black. You see what I mean? And it's a bit like that, really. I think that Joey, there was such a lot going on in his head. He didn't know what to store in the front of his head anymore. And he was having problems, wasn't he? Just thinking outside of, linking all the thoughts up. He couldn't work out what was important anymore. So yeah, possibly he is dyslexic. Yeah,
possibly. I just it just sort of literally has occurred to me to wonder whether that's a possibility. But yes, you're quite right. I mean, his brain was on fire. It was quite, that was quite sort of visible, wasn't it? It's a great way of describing it.
Yeah, you can almost see the smoke coming out of his ears.
Oh, bless him, bless his heart. Love him to pieces now. Now, before we talk about Lauren and Locksmith, who both won, sorry, spoiler alert, I should have said, shouldn't I? Spoiler alert, Lauren and Locksmith won. Sorry, everyone, if you haven't watched it yet. Now then, bless her heart, Nikki, you mentioned that she was like the grey person going through the whole of the programme. So is that in interrogation purposes, is that a good place to be unnoticed? And, you know, was she playing a blinder there?
Yeah.
And for an actress to become the grey lady, actually, quite a shift in, or quite a demonstration of flexibility of behaviour, I would have thought.
Yeah, I don't know what character she plays. I think is she in Corrie?
Oh, we meant to look, didn't we, last week? Corrie or EastEnders, if anybody knows, that would be amazing. Jazz thinks it's hilarious that I would have been shot, by the way.
Yeah, I'd have shot her.
Oh, yeah, and John Fashanu was another one of the people who was removed. Thank you, Janie. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Jazz, for all of this. It's really useful to have you on board to answer our questions. So tell me about being the great person. Is that a tactic that you would recommend in interrogation? How does one achieve it?
Oh, Hollyoaks. She's in Hollyoaks. Right.
Hollyoaks, yes.
We're too old for Hollyoaks.
Yeah.
Now then, grey person. Is that what you asked?
Yeah. How do you become a grey person in this, when you have been captured? How does that happen?
So do not draw attention to yourself. So you're compliant, you're polite, you answer the questions, but you stay as boring really as possible, so that you're not particularly interesting to the interrogators, but you're interesting enough for them to think, oh no, we'll talk to her later. Remember, the underlying thing here is you've been captured, somebody's going to come and try and get you out. So right. You want to be keeping yourself alive, don't you?
Of course, that's the ultimate, isn't it? Because you're probably not going to get out of there on your own. You just need to stay alive as long as you possibly can. Is that right? Of course. Of course.
So if you're the grey person and you're just quietly sitting in the corner holding the stress position.
Which is amazing, isn't it, when you think about it?
Yeah, it is. And interestingly, the people that find it most difficult, they find it horrific, and you see them, they're sweating cold, are the people that are really muscle bound, the gym bunnies.
And Tony showed that last night, didn't he? He couldn't do the stress position. He was struggling.
But the little girls generally are brilliant at it. All the yogis, not. Like, why is this hard? Why is this even hard? Yeah. You're too what? Yeah.
Amazing.
But
and
if you've got massive lats here or delts or what have you, and a big shoulders that you've built up down the gym, then you've got to try and do that. And they struggle. They really struggle. The other thing they struggle with is if you lie them down on their backs, just straight with their feet up, just lying straight on your back. I'd love that. Thanks very much. But a lot of the guys find that almost impossible to do that comfortably. Lying down on the floor, there's no sort of pillow or anything like that, but you're lying on the floor, your head's down, but keeping your legs together with your toes up. I hope you're all going to go and try this later. It's a massive strain for some people.
Gosh.
And they won't do it for any more than 2 minutes, and then they have to get up there. And you can see them all in detention in D which is where they're held. And you can see the ones that are struggling because they'll be going, and they'll be belly aching away because it's just too much, just too much. And yet it's not torture. You're just making them hold one position, and when they're not doing that, they're holding the wall up,
Yeah.
Against the wall. But that it's all meant to just tire you out. It's not meant as torture. It's just to tire you out.
Yeah, but it would be torture, wouldn't it, as well? So, sat down and with no comfy backrest or anything to rest your back against, all of that. Didn't it look like Tony was struggling when he was holding the wall up? Do you remember that?
Yeah. He would have been struggling absolutely with all of that.
Amazing. Such simple things that you don't have to do anything complicated really to put people in stress. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, Liz. So we're coming to. We've actually been chatting an hour, which is amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much. Let's have a little chat about the two winners. So we have the lovely Lauren and we have the lovely Locksmith, 2 L's as well. Oh, look, that's Louise, Liz, Lauren and Locksmith. I've just made that connection.
The winners.
Going on there, yeah. So what do you think? What's your verdict on were they worthy winners and what got them to that point?
Yeah, they were ace. I think Lauren's intelligence, I think in fact, both of them, they're both intelligent people. And their effective intelligence was ably demonstrated to the DS throughout. They'll have been watching and thinking, yeah, no, these two are switched on. What will have impressed them about Locksmith, I think, was the fact that having carried that bloody boat on his back with his sore leg and all that, he just managed to do it.
Yeah.
And he kept his head down during the interrogation phase and stayed quite unassailable, unpiss-offable, which is a real strength,
Yeah.
And I think Lauren was the same. And also they would have been impressed with Lauren because she decided, and she had the balls, and it does take balls, to change, to think, right, okay, now is the time when I need to leave the cover story behind, break cover and expose myself and my colleagues, right? Yeah. How much balls does that take?
Yeah.
And that's what they will have been impressed with. So throughout, she's had effective intelligence. She's been paired up with Joey, with whom she had little rapport, but they tried. And do you know what? It wasn't a disaster. It wasn't an easy pairing, but it wasn't a disaster. It must have irritated the hell out of both Lauren and Joey because they're so dissimilar. But she's shown willing, and also when they've told her, Jazz says, I love Lizzie's technical terms, lol.
Jazz.
Yeah. So Lauren's approach has been to listen also to what the DS have said. And I think those people that listen to what the DS say, put into practice, and then do something different the day after to make an improvement, however small or incremental, those are the ones that impress, because the DS need to know that you're listening and learning, that they need to know that you don't think that you know it all and you are open to critique. They need to know that you are also strong enough to take something on the chin, know that it wasn't meant personally, and just go away and roll with it, so that the following day you come back out rocking and rolling and doing it differently. And I think Lauren has consistently done that over the time. And I think Locksmith has. We've seen less of that, but I think that that's what would have been occurring. And you can bet your bottom dollar that with both of those worthy winners, they will have shown in spades what Ollie calls the minerals, the minerals required.
Yes.
And you're not looking for a finished article, are you? You're not looking for a finished article. You are looking for the guy that has shown that she or he has the potential to learn what they need to learn to become a super duper A1 operator. And these two did. They were great.
Fantastic. There were, the series has been, and Liz, you have been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so, so much. We started off before Celebrity SAS Who Dares Wins. We're talking about resilience through the lockdown. Do you remember?
Seems like a long time ago.
It does, doesn't it? It really does. And we're in a different place now than we were in those very, very early days. I have loved my Tuesdays. I hope we're going to do something on a fairly regular basis, Liz. I'm sure we can cook something up for coaching interest in this very diverse and incredible world that we live in. Would you be up for that, Liz?
Absolutely.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Just don't get me giving any makeup tips. Leave that to Esther.
We'll leave that to Esther Marie. Oh my God, isn't she awesome with her makeup tips?
She is.
Fantastic. I'd like to say thank you to everybody that has joined us today for the amazing comments. Can't see all of them because they don't all come up through the system. So I'm stuck at Nikki and Joey came across as nice and athletic but simple people. That's the nicest way to put it from Jazz. So we're going to end on that note. Thank you so, so much. Just remember that Liz is, she's an active coach. She's out there coaching. She doesn't just do telework. So if you want to get a load of what Liz is doing, then go to lizabram.co.uk and you will be able to access her there. If you want to train to become a fantastic coach with us, or you want some coaching from us, then contact us here on this page or simplychanging.co.uk. We're very, very happy to speak to everybody. Thank you, Liz. It's been an absolute delight. Thank you.
Thank you. See you, everybody.
Take care. Bye, everyone. Oh.